Hey y'all, I just wanted to make a video about an incident that happened to me on Saturday morning, very early in the morning, between the hours of midnight 30 and 1 a.m. I was asleep in this parking lot right here. I had driven to Horseshoe Bay Resort, which is quite a long drive from my home, for an interview for a job there. And then I went straight to work. After that, I had a part-time job in College Station. I got off from there at about 9:45, and driving into Huntsville back to Diboll, my eyes got tired. So I pulled over here in this spot right here in front of this window, turned my car off, laid down, and went to sleep. I was awoken and startled to a Walker County Sheriff, Deuty Rivas, knocking on my window with his bright light in my eyes. And I don't have a problem with that. I do not have a problem with that whatsoever. He asked what I was doing. I told him I was sleeping. I explained why. He asked for my license. I was a little perturbed, but I gave it to him. He called my license in. I know I'm clear. I know before he ever woke me up, he shone his light in my car, saw I was by myself, saw I was sleeping. I know he ran my plate as soon as he pulled up on me because, well, that's standard protocol. But what he did then, instead of giving me my driver's license back, letting me continue on with my sleep because I was exhausted, and he was parked right behind me, so I wouldn't have been able to leave unless he moved. But once he found out I was cleared, he should have let me go, because I was not breaking any law, sleeping in my car. Matter of fact, I was saving human life, because when you're driving sleepy, you are essentially driving like you're under the influence. And so when I had told him, like, hey, I work in College Station. It's a long drive from here. And I got off. I told him I have a Security 2 license. So I'm a licensed security officer. And told him that from the get-go. Well, once he found out I was clear, instead of handing me my license back like I said he should have, and that should have been the end of that, he proceeded to ask me again who I worked for. And I told him again. And then I told him, your questioning has now gone from merely inquiring to harassment. And he asked me how he was harassing me. I said, because you're not investigating anything. There's nothing to investigate here. Like, I am sleeping on private property in front of a business that is closed. That's my right to do that. I got sleepy. I pulled over. I did the right thing. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not committing any crime. I'm doing absolutely nothing wrong for you to continue to question me. He said, well, we've had a lot of break-ins in this area. I said, well, am I breaking in sleeping? Again, I'm not doing anything wrong. I've broken no laws. You ran my plates, it came back clear. You ran my license, it came back clear. That should be the end of that. Instead of handing me my license, even after all that, and letting me go, he then asks me if my security license allows if that is armed or unarmed. I said unarmed. And I knew exactly where he was going from there. He asked me if I had a weapon on me. I said, yes, matter of fact, I do. And he said, where is it in the glove compartment? And I said, no, it's right here on my console, loaded. He said, well, can I see it? And at first I started to say no. But I wanted to see how far he was going to take it. And by then I was already angry. I was already angry. But I let him. I allowed him to see it. Well, he seized possession of it. Well, I got out of my car. I told him where it was. I unlocked the door to the passenger seat. I got out of my car. My hands up. I was barefoot. Because being on my feet and driving all day, my feet swell. I had my shoes and socks off because I was sleeping. So I got out barefoot. Even though I was mad, angry, perturbed, tired, agitated, I let him, he took my weapon, then had me stand in front of his car where I could be on display in front of his Blazer, where I could be on display for all the people passing by at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And he started taking my gun apart, looking to see if it had been fired. He asked me if I was a felon. And that is when I went off on his ass. And excuse my language, but I told him, no, I'm not a fucking felon. But how about you tell me where the fuck a Security 2 license comes from? Where does it come from? Answer me that. How do I get a Security 2 license? And he couldn't answer me. Standing there looking dumbfounded. And he couldn't answer me. And then he wanted to know why I was so upset. Well, because what you're doing is unlawful. What you're doing is unlawful. You're treating me like a criminal when I broke no law. I did nothing wrong. I pulled over into a parking lot to sleep, to protect human life and my own. And you've got me out here like I'm a criminal. You have exceeded your bounds as a police officer. What you're doing is overreach. And it is unlawful. And I will be filing a complaint. So we continue on. He calls in the serial number to see if my weapon is stolen. I'm walking around because I'm mad. And I thought, you know what? I need to get my phone and start recording because my phone was in the car. Well, no, he had me illegally detained, unlawfully detained, unlawfully detained. He wouldn't let me go to my car. He said, no, don't go to your car. Come back over here in front of my vehicle. So you have me unlawfully detained. You are unlawfully intimidating me. Your scope of investigation has already passed. You're treating me like a criminal. You have now gone above and deprived me of my civil rights by the Fourth Amendment. But I was standing up for myself, y'all. 4 pages. 4 pages of a typewritten formal complaint against Officer Brian Rivas, number 7474 of the Walker County Sheriff's Department. 4 pages. Last page, notarized. People know me. People know me, and they know I'm going to stand up for myself. I know my rights as a criminal justice professional and as a citizen. I had the right to carry my firearm. He did not have a right to ask me if I was carrying. He most certainly did not have a right to ask me if he could have it. He did not have a right to take it apart and examine it to see if it had been fired, because that's none of his damn business. Once he knew that I was clear on my vehicle and that I was clear on my license, he should have let me go. He abused his power as a law enforcement officer by continuing to question me and treat me like I'm a criminal, when I was not breaking any laws. I was doing nothing wrong. And he wanted to ask me, why are you asleep here in front of a closed business? Why didn't you go down the way and sleep in a parking lot and go in and tell the cashier, hey, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep in the parking lot right here? I said, because I don't have to do that. Because I didn't want the light in my eyes. I choose where I want to pull over and sleep. The business is closed. It has a for rent sign in front of it. So I'm doing nothing wrong. It doesn't say no trespassing. It does not say no trespassing. So I have filed a formal complaint. I sent the email to the sheriff last night, and I told him I'm going to drop by a formal notarized complaint today in writing. I also sent a Texas Public Information Act request for the dash cam video and audio, as well as his body cam video and audio. And I sent a separate Texas Public Information Act request for any files, any grievances made against him, and a list of all cases that he's been involved with during his employment. He felt comfortable enough and arrogant enough to do that to me. And I know my rights. I know I can report him. And I'm not afraid to do it. And I did on Saturday morning when I woke up and I was on my way to work Saturday afternoon. I did go by and file a formal complaint, a verbal complaint with a sergeant. And I made sure that he was recording me on his body cam. And I told him I had the utmost respect for our law enforcement and the law. I didn't have a problem with being woke up. I was agitated, yes, because I was freaking tired. And I didn't have a problem with him asking me for my license. Again, I was agitated from being woke up. But I gave it to him. Because that is what the law says. But everything he did after he found out that I was clear was unlawful. It was all unlawful. So, I have filed a complaint. Violations in criminal nature. Deputy Rivas' actions were not merely unprofessional, but criminal. Unlawful restraint. 20.02. Intentional restraint without consent or legal justification. Harassment. 42.07. Repeated intent-driven questioning to annoy and alarm. Official oppression. 39.03. Mistreatment, unlawful detention and search, and denial of rights under color of office. Civil rights violations. Unreasonable seizure under the Fourth Amendment. Potential 1983 claim for deprivation of liberty without due process. And here I say, I am a strong supporter of law enforcement. I am a criminal justice professional and have the utmost respect for law enforcement officers and the law. However, I have civil rights afforded to me by the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, and the state of Texas has the Texas Penal Code of Criminal Procedure to hold persons, entities, and etc. to account when my civil rights have been violated. The extent to which Deputy Rivas chose to go to harass, detain, and intimidate me undermines public trust and exposes the department to liability. I request a full investigation, criminal charges against Deputy Rivas, disciplinary action including termination, and a referral to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement for license review. If Deputy Rivas felt comfortable and arrogant enough to treat me in the manner in which he did, a citizen peacefully and lawfully sleeping, I question how many other innocent citizens he treated in the same manner who do not know their rights as I do, or who may have been too fearful to report his actions. And that leads me to this video. I would really like to know, Deputy Rivas works at night. He works at night. I know his beat is Riverside, because, well, that's where he was. That's where I was. I was literally right outside. Literally right outside of Riverside. You can see the Riverside wall right there. So I was literally out when I was woke up and when all of this took place. So I know he works nights. And clearly, he thought he could get away with it. He did offer to have his sergeant come down. And I said, oh, no. Nope. I'm going to do it my way. Because I'm not going to wait for him to come down here. I'm going to file a formal complaint. I'm going to do it in writing. And I may or may not reach out to the news. This happens all the time, y'all. All the time. When I had my 2003 Honda Civic, it was a rundown car. People could be speeding by, but I would be the one to get pulled over or followed while they're behind me running my license plate. I can imagine how upset they were. Like, darn, man, she's got insurance. It's not stolen. She's using blinkers. I don't have probable cause to pull her over and question her. And I told that officer, you are the reason. You, people like you, Deputy Brian Rivas are the reason citizens lose trust in law enforcement. It is people like you committing criminal acts against innocent people when you think that nobody is watching. Well, this time it happened to me. And I thank God that it did. I do. I am grateful that it did. Because maybe this is a door that needs to be opened to investigate him to see how many other times he has done this to innocent people. And maybe they were too scared to stand up for themselves, or they didn't know that they could or how to do it. But I'm working on it. God bless y'all. And God bless our law enforcement who are honest. I thank you for your service.